And it was the Federal Reserve's loose lending policies, money policies, that many experts from both sides of the aisle said is what exacerbated the problem and brought us into this situation by just making money so cheap that Wall Street could say they can get involved with all these really speculative deals where they really shouldn't have. And it was back in those days, it was called the Greenspan put. They knew that Alan Greenspan would come, and if Wall Street made some ridiculous investments or decisions and what strategies, what have you, don't worry about it, because Alan Greenspan and the government would step in and basically bail them out. So clearly, you are right. Alan Greenspan, the government, was wrong in all those things. But I will also agree with you as well that on the other side of the ledger, or the street, Wall Street made some fabulously terrible decisions in speculations in areas that they never should have, and you really have to scratch your head and say, what were these people at the top on Wall Street thinking on some of their decisions?
Well, speaking of right or wrong, was Ken Feinberg right or wrong with his announcement yesterday? AIG, Bank of America, Chrysler, GMAC, among the companies that will see a significantly lower executive pay.
Yeah. Well, just as the government should not have been doing what it was doing, as last caller was saying with Greenspan, what have you, the government really should not be also involved where they don't have a piece of the action, if you will. But where he's talking about, certainly the government and you and I, the American taxpayer, do have a piece of the action because we have our tax dollars invested now in these companies. So I think he has a legitimacy to step in here and say that the taxpayer, the stockholders, if you will, of these companies now have a say as to what some of the executive compensation should be.
On the NewsHour last night, Ken Feinberg was asked about Bank of America, saying that it is now losing some of its people. They're being recruited by other companies who are going to pay them more. Do you buy that argument?
I buy it to a degree, but remember that was the same argument that AIG was making as well, and then some of the reports came out in the last couple of weeks as to who some of these people were getting compensation, these big bonuses over at AIG under their contract, and they were not certainly people that were what do you call key employees of the corporation, people that if they lost them, that the entire corporation would go down. So I take some of that with a little bit of a grain of salt.
Scott Garrett, who serves on the Budget Committee, also House Financial Services Committee, now in his 4th term. You can go to his website at garrett.house.gov. Dan joining us from Georgetown, Massachusetts, Independent Line. Good morning, Dan.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on this morning. I got 3 questions.
Can we take one at a time?
Yeah.
Sure. Completely unregulated oil futures trading. When is this going to be put to an end? This is ridiculous. We can't tell who is buying oil futures. It's a free-for-all.
Okay. We'll come back with your follow-up.
Okay. And I guess that probably has a bigger impact on folks up by where you are. How cold is it up in Massachusetts? Is the heat already on for a period of time up there?
Well, we've had it on a few times. It's about 39 degrees right now. So
yeah. I live up in upstate New Jersey. It's not as cold as I'm sure Massachusetts is, but we watch our oil bill go through the roof as well. So I share your concern in this area. Since you follow this topic, there's been some analysis or some studies over CFTC and what have you saying what futures plays I don't know what the term they use, marginal impact upon on the speculative side, but I do believe there has to be some element to that as far as the pricing that you and I are paying for it, and so it needs to be looked at.
Dan, you want to follow up?
Sure. Well, that wasn't much of an answer, but we're used to that.
Dan, what answer do you want?
Yeah, what would you like to see? Ban them?
There needs to be some regulation on oil, either things were thrown out there before. If you're a company that uses large amounts of oil, sure, you can buy oil futures. But to have investment firms like Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, who owned most of the oil when it was run up to $150 a barrel last year, that's just plain old wrong.
Yeah, but
that's all I'm talking about. But
yeah.
To get to my second question quickly, naked short selling. It's basically the legalized counterfeiting of money. This throws a wrench in the entire stock market. It needs to stop. And I'll just throw in my last point here. Our country was attacked on September 11th, 2008.
Right.
There was a run on the Treasury.
Oh.
Why is no one talking about this?
And the run on the Treasury he's referring to, is the caller still there?
He's not.
Okay. I guess he's just referring to all the bailouts and that we did during that period of time. Well, some of us are still talking about that. We're talking about that constantly, saying that that was a problem. Some of us didn't support all that proverbial run on the Treasury, as you put it. That sort of helped to exacerbate the problem, led to the idea that we have a bailout philosophy here in Washington, and now creates all the problems going forward. To your question as far as whether we should, Feinberg's decision as far as executive pay, compensation, and restrictions, what have you, we would never be in that debate and that discussion right now if Congress, the last administration, and this administration just went along with this bailout mentality, saying that we're going to bail out Wall Street for all the mistakes that they made. So some of us are talking about it. And going back to
let me go back to the TARP money, because there is talk in this town of making that a permanent part of the government structure.
Yeah. Well, to your previous caller's questions and tie that in, no, we don't like that idea at all. Some of us opposed it entirely from day one, that the plan was not sensible, that would create problems down the road. And some of us actually have supported, myself, amendments to our legislation to say that all the money that has not been spent should not be spent and returned to the Treasury, such as we have it, although we're in $1.4 trillion worth of deficit. The money's really not there. So no, we should not have a permanent program like that.
If you're joining us on C-SPAN Radio here in Washington, 90.1 FM, or nationwide on channel 130 XM, our guest is Congressman Scott Garrett, member of the House Financial Services Committee. The House voting yesterday at committee 39 to 29 in favor of this Consumer Financial Protection Agency, and he'll be with us for another 10 minutes or so. We have a lot of loyal viewers on this network, and we appreciate all of them, but none more loyal than Joe McCutcheon, who phones every 30 days, and he's on now from Ellijay, Georgia. Good morning, Joe.
Steve, you're great. It's great. I'm in Virginia at the home of my brother-in-law, Gordon Watkins. We're up here working for McDonald's for governor. It looks like, Scott, he's going to win. I walk through the neighborhood. I've never seen so many McDonald's signs. People are really fired up and energized. And with your topic, I'm against more government regulation. And Steve and Scott, we had 4 Georgians talking about great on finances that were named by Club for Growth Port Report. They got a perfect 100. No other state had that many. Tom Price, John Linder, and Lynn Westmoreland, and let's see, one more. Tom Price, Westmoreland, Paul Brown, and John Linder.
Yeah, Paul Brown.
So we're just really proud of them. But Scott, I think we're going to have a big win down here in Virginia. And I think that will lead to the Republican takeover of Congress, Steve, in 2010, and to kick out Obama in 2012. We just can't afford all this government. And to go to your topic, Steve, but Steve, I'm down here in Virginia, and I've never seen people so fired up to reverse the Washington policies. Everybody's fired up about it.
Joe, I think we lost you. It wasn't our fault if you're calling on a cell phone. But thank you for the call. Let me ask you about your home state of Virginia, because your Republican nominee was up as much as 13... New Jersey, yes, I apologize.
Okay.
But in New Jersey, your Republican candidate up 13 to 15 points, and now Chris Christie is down in the polls, John Corzine, and in what is a 3-way race.
Well, obviously we need Joe to come on up to New Jersey and help us out in New Jersey with that race. Look, no one ever anticipated that a Republican would win by the double digits that we had back in July and August when everything was just early on in the race. We knew that it was always going to be a close race. New Jersey is a heavily Democrat state, and so it was going to be tough. But New Jersey is the epitome in so many ways out of Trenton, our state capital, what is wrong as far as spending. It's been out of control. As far as regulation, it's out of control with loss of businesses, loss of jobs, and loss of population as well. So if you want to see where the United States is going to go if we implement a lot of these bigger government policies down here in Washington, just look at New Jersey, and you see the high unemployment approaching 10%. You see the loss of jobs and businesses. That's why we need, the voters, I think, will agree, a need for a change in our state.
But your state has elected Governor Kane, Governor Whitman, both Republicans in the past.
Yep. A while ago. Yeah, those go back, Tom Kane over a decade now or more, and Christie Whitman just about that, I guess, at this point in time as well.
Who's going to win?
Hoping Chris Christie.
That's who you're hoping for.
That's what I'm hoping for the sake of our state, for the sake of our economy, for the taxpayers. And I'm a taxpayer there, so I'm hoping that my taxes aren't going to go up anymore either.
Property taxes in New Jersey, how high are they?
They're some of the highest in the country, and that's why when I go out and do a town hall meeting or such, and the questions in the audience First is health care, because that's the national issue. But the second question always is property taxes, even though federal government has very little to do with impact upon them.